Hey guys, Ricky here with DoD Contract Academy. And today we're going to go over the biggest kept secret in business. Most of you have probably guessed what that is already. So, the US government's the single biggest purchaser of goods and services in the world, and less than 1% of small businesses are actually selling to the government. So, look, this is your tax dollars, and they're hard at work for about half of a percent of all of the small businesses out there. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. This was one of my started off as a pet peeve when I was an acquisitions officer in the government. And it became more and more of a problem when I was looking for good companies that had amazing technologies to solve government problems. And they didn't even know that the US government bought what they sold. And that is something that we're trying to change. And we've been changing it at the Academy with our podcast, DoD Contract Academy, which you can look up with our website. You can go to dodcontract.com and you can see our blog, some of our training. And of course, we have something we'll tell you about at the end, which is our Academy membership. We help small businesses sell to the government. But today, I just wanted to go over, hey, what is government contracting? What is that opportunity look like, and how can you take advantage of it? So, first, I mentioned that not many small businesses actually sell to the government. The U.S. government is the biggest purchaser of goods and services in the world, and they don't just buy weapons. Don't just think big contracts with defense companies. The government buys everything that you could think of, and that's really the first message is, so whether you're in construction or you're an accountant or you own a landscaping business or you haul trash or whatever it is, the government probably buys it. And they buy it to different degrees. But I will tell you, the average small business in 2021 made a little over 2.3 million a year selling to the government. This doesn't happen overnight. Okay, it does take time to sell to the government, and there's reasons not many businesses are doing it. The first reason is lack of awareness, right? So most people just don't realize that the government buys what they sell and buys as much of it as they do. The second thing is the process for selling to the government is quite a bit different than the process for B2B sales, meaning business to business, or if you're selling to consumers. If you have a pastry shop, people just walk in off the street and they can come buy your pastries. You can put an ad in the paper. There's a lot of ways to drive business to your store. The government has been buying things since essentially the birth of the country. And because of that, like the government does, they make regulations and policies, and those build on top of each other until you've had such a massive amount of paperwork telling the government how they make purchases that most people look at that and go, how can I even understand how to do this? So hopefully I can clear it up for you. So first, the government, 99.9% positive, the government buys what you sell. And there's a way to easily find out not only how much they buy, but how much you can make and what other companies are doing that sell what you sell. So we'll describe that a little bit, but just wanted to cover the basic premise that the government buys what you sell. It is a additional stream of revenue that you could be taking advantage of, and it can offset a fluctuating economy. It can grow your business exponentially. Not to mention the fact that if you want to sell your company in the future, nothing's going to increase your value like consistent government contracts. I mean, that's if you have a 3-year contract with the government, there are very few things that would happen to affect that contract, meaning for that to go away. Not to say that there isn't anything. Certainly there are, but these are high confidence contracts that your business could have. So that's a little bit about the opportunity. Now, who's this for, right? Who is government contracting for? Well, certainly for small businesses. So if you have a small business, you have commercial sales, you're looking for an additional stream of revenue, this could be for you. It's something worth investigating. If you are a consultant or a business coach, if you can learn how the government buys even just a particular thing, like a particular niche, how does the government buy commodities? How does the government buy construction services or accounting services? I would say you could focus on one of those areas, and you would immediately separate yourself from the rest of the crowd. Not many people understand how the government buys. It's just a misunderstood and neglected area, and it's a place you could set yourself apart. And I would say last is for sales executives out there. If you're selling for a company, you hear about things like pharmaceutical sales being a very high paying profession, or there are some other areas as well for here salesmen, medical devices, where they can make a lot of money. Well, selling to the government in the public sector, that is a place where you can make a ton of money because, first of all, the contracts tend to be large. Secondly, if you're effective, and you're bringing in a commission, that's going to supplement your income. And third, if you do, once you do get experience in that area, the salaries are very high. So those are three areas. Now I'm going to focus on the small business, the entrepreneur. And I guess there's a fourth area too that you could think about. And that is, you have an idea for a technology, or you're developing a software suite. That is the type of thing where you can go after R&D contracts, research and development contracts with the federal government. And what happens is the government in phases can fund your business as you're developing an MVP, a minimal viable product, and get that out commercially. So multiple areas there, and we could certainly spend a lot of time covering each one of those. But I wanted to discuss the process in general for how you sell to the government, right? So whether you're a small business, whether you're a business coach, a sales executive, or you're looking for some of those R&D funds, this is the way that we help our students in DoD Contract Academy through the process. So the first thing you do is you can identify, does the government buy what I sell? And one great way to do that is to go to usaspending.gov. You can use their search tools there, and we've done podcasts on it if you want an in-depth review on how to search through government spending, but you can get an idea of how much the government spends on your product or service. I mentioned at the beginning of this that the average small business is making, or at least in 2021, made a little over 2.3 million a year. But that can vary pretty wildly depending on what you're selling, right? And if you happen to be in a technology-related field, that can be quite a bit higher than that. So if you're successful at selling to the government, if you understand the process and you're committed to it, you can do very well as a small business, as an entrepreneur, with whatever your specialty or area of expertise is. So first, does the government buy what you sell? The next thing you are going to do is you're going to develop a pipeline of government opportunities. And so there are a few different ways to do this, but what we teach is the 5X method. Basically, you need to decide how much you need to bring in each year with this line of revenue, right? So if that was, let's say, and I used this in a recent podcast with a student, was if you had a quota, for instance, of $1 million, or you had a goal for your business to bring in $1 million in contracts for, let's say, management services, right? You were selling. Well, what I want to have is a minimum of $5 million worth of opportunities in my pipeline. And those opportunities, we have methods of finding opportunities before the government puts out an official solicitation. You can find opportunities where the government is saying, hey, we are going to maybe we need 5 people to provide management services at a military base or in a government organization. And you can meet with them and you can influence that opportunity through closing. So that's what you're looking to do. But we want 5X, whatever your goal is in the pipeline. And then once you have your pipeline, you're going to follow very simple process, simple to say, maybe not quite so simple to do, of influencing each one of those opportunities until you close them. So does the government buy what you sell? Yes. Build a pipeline of opportunities that make sense for your small business. Now you're going to influence each of those until you get to the point where you're either being awarded a contract, submitting a proposal. There's a few things there that we'll go over in other videos and podcasts. Now, One thing, if you're just seeing this for the first time and you are new to selling to the government, you don't even know where to look, I'll give you a couple places. SAM.gov, for instance, is the repository of federal opportunities. And it's also where you register your business to sell to the government. So you can check out sam.gov and it can walk you through. It's simple. You can register your business on your own. You have to have a business in order to register it, but you can walk through the process there. I mentioned usaspending.gov. That's a good place to check out the historical spending history of the federal government. So that's one nice thing about the government, which is different than selling commercially or to other businesses, is the government has to publish a lot of criteria associated with each of their contracts. So you can look with very accurate detail by your industry. So I'll give an example. Let's say you were an accountant and let's say you provided bookkeeping services. We could go in and look at the past couple of years of federal spending and very accurately see, what did the average small business make? Which government agencies awarded small businesses contracts for bookkeeping, in order, exactly how much, and how did they do that? The government can buy in a few different ways, so we want to know how the government buys what you sell. That way you're not wasting your time. Now we can go and we can see how the government, what kind of vehicles and mechanisms does the government use to put small businesses on contract for bookkeeping? Do they award sole source? Are they competed? Are you going to be partnering with bigger companies? Are you going to be a subcontractor? So those are all things that we can see before we even start. Now we can build that step-by-step process for selling to the government. Now, if this sounds like a lot, I completely understand that. It is. It's probably one of the reasons that less than 1% of small businesses in the U.S. are actually selling to the government. That's what we try to simplify at dodcontract.com. This is where we teach the process that I frankly had a front row seat to when I was a government procurement officer. So we teach a very clear step-by-step process at DoD Contract Academy. Get over there to dodcontract.com. Join the academy. You can watch our training modules, and then we have weekly coaching to help small businesses, entrepreneurs win their first contracts to the U.S. government. Look, hopefully this provided some value to you. And, I look forward to seeing you in the academy, and you may not be ready for that now, but if you're not, check out our podcast, DoD Contract Academy, any podcast platform that you like to listen to, search it out. We have a lot of great free training on there. We also interview small businesses that are very successful in different industries. So depending on where you're at, I bet you'll find a company there that sells what you are selling, planning on selling, or maybe at least something similar. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.